The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. It was 3 times larger than any human spacecraft, gleaming silver against the darkness of space. Inside the ship, Commander Zekthar stood on the bridge, studying the blue planet below. His 4 eyes scanned the data screens with satisfaction. Another primitive world ready for the Empire. Zekthar had done this hundreds of times before. His species, the Hierarchs, had built an empire that stretched across thousands of star systems. They had a simple system that worked perfectly for 10,000 years. Every species had its place. Some were leaders. Some were warriors. Most were workers. DNA decided everything. The Empire's scientists had already studied human genetics from a safe distance. The results came back clear. Humans were Tier 4 labor caste, nothing special. Average strength. Decent intelligence, but not remarkable. They would make good workers in the Empire's factories and farms. Zekthar watched the planet turn slowly below. He saw cities with lights, primitive satellites orbiting like toys. The humans were broadcasting radio signals everywhere, making noise like children. They had split themselves into hundreds of separate nations. Chaos. No wonder they needed the Empire's guidance. He ordered his ship to land. They chose a location called New York at something called the United Nations. His researchers said this was where human leaders gathered, perfect for first contact. The landing made all the news channels. Humans pointed cameras at the ship. Military forces surrounded it but kept their distance. Good. They showed proper respect for superior technology. Zekthar walked down the landing ramp wearing his ceremonial armor. It gleamed purple and gold in the sunlight. Behind him, 20 soldiers marched in perfect formation. This was how first contact always went. Show strength. Establish authority. Accept submission. A human delegation waited for him. They wore simple black suits. No armor, no weapons visible. At the front stood a woman with dark hair and calm eyes. She stepped forward with a slight smile. "Welcome to Earth," she said through a translation device. "I am Secretary General Maria Martinez of the United Nations." Zekthar began his standard speech. He had given it so many times he could recite it in his sleep. "People of Earth, you have been selected for integration into the Galactic Empire. This is a great honor. Your species has been evaluated and assigned to Tier 4 labor caste. You will be given work assignments appropriate to your genetic capabilities. Resistance is neither necessary nor permitted. The Empire provides for all." He expected fear, maybe awe. Some species fell to their knees. Others wept with joy at being accepted into something greater. But Martinez just looked at him with those calm eyes. "I see," she said. "And what exactly do we get from this arrangement?" Zekthar blinked all 4 eyes. "What kind of question was that?" "You receive the benefits of Empire membership, protection, technology, structure. Your genetic caste determines your role. It is very efficient." Martinez tilted her head slightly. That was interesting. That was the gesture humans made when confused. "Commander Zekthar, we appreciate you traveling all this way. But humanity has not requested membership in your empire. We have not asked for protection or technology. And we certainly have not asked to be assigned to a labor caste based on our DNA." Silence fell over the assembled crowd. Zekthar felt something unfamiliar. Confusion. "You do not understand. This is not a request. The Empire has evaluated your species. Your role has been determined." Martinez actually laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. "We tried that genetic destiny nonsense ourselves a few times throughout history. It never worked out well. Caused a lot of suffering, actually. We stopped doing it." Zekthar felt his confidence crack. Primitives did not talk to Imperial officers this way. They did not dismiss the Empire's offer. "I must inform my superiors of your attitude. This defiance is unacceptable." Martinez nodded politely. "Of course, you do what you need to do. Meanwhile, Earth will take your proposal under advisement. We'll get back to you after we discuss it among ourselves. Should take a few months. Maybe a year. You know how democracy works, very slow. Lots of meetings." She extended her hand. Zekthar knew this was a human greeting gesture. He did not take it. "This is a mistake," he said. Martinez lowered her hand, still smiling. "Probably not our first. Thank you for visiting, Commander." Zekthar returned to his ship, his mind racing. In all his years of service, no species had ever dismissed the Empire. No primitive world had ever treated first contact like a business meeting they could walk away from. He sent his report to the High Council immediately. He explained the situation carefully. The humans were clearly confused. They did not understand the honor being offered. They needed correction. Perhaps a show of force would help them understand reality. The response came within days. A compliance fleet would arrive in 6 months, 50 warships, enough to make the message clear, enough to remove any doubt, enough to bring Earth into the Empire properly. Zekthar's ship departed, leaving behind a single observer. Her job was to help humanity prepare for integration, to guide them toward accepting their proper place. But down in the United Nations building, Martinez stood before a room full of world leaders. Every nation had sent representatives. The screens showed translations in dozens of languages. "Ladies and gentlemen," Martinez said, her voice steady and clear, "we have 6 months before 50 alien warships arrive in our orbit. They expect us to surrender. They expect us to accept their rules. They expect us to become workers in their empire." She paused, looking at each face in the room. "I suggest we show them what humanity does when someone tells us we have no choice. I suggest we show them what happens when you underestimate Earth." The room erupted with voices. Some argued for peace. Some demanded war. Some suggested negotiation. But beneath all the noise, something else was happening. Humanity was doing what it always did when threatened. It was getting ready to fight. The Imperial Observer watched humanity with growing confusion. Her name was Kirasol, and she had helped integrate 43 species into the Empire. She thought she had seen everything. She was wrong. Earth should have panicked. When faced with an overwhelming military force, primitives usually surrendered immediately or collapsed into chaos. But humans did neither. Instead, they treated it like a project. Within days of the announcement, every major nation pledged resources to defense. Scientists from 50 countries gathered to study the brief scans they had made of the Imperial survey ship. Engineers started designing weapons and spacecraft. The humans called it the greatest challenge in their history. Kirasol sent daily reports to the High Council. Each one was more concerning than the last. Day 12. Humans have reverse-engineered basic FTL principles from sensor data. This should be impossible. Day 25. They are building spacecraft. The designs are inefficient and crude, but they are building them. Day 47. Human military strategists have noticed that Imperial fleets broadcast their movements on public channels. They find this useful. The High Council dismissed her concerns. Primitives always struggled before accepting the inevitable. Let them waste their resources. It would make integration easier when they realized how futile resistance was. But Kirasol could not shake her unease. She spent time among humans trying to understand them. She attended their meetings, watched their news broadcasts, and studied their history. What she found terrified her. Humans had spent their entire existence fighting each other. Their history was filled with wars over land, resources, religion, and ideas. They could never agree on anything. They had over 200 nations that argued constantly. Yet somehow, within weeks of facing an external threat, they united. All those nations that could not agree on anything suddenly worked together perfectly. They shared technology freely. They coordinated their efforts. They stopped fighting each other and focused on a common enemy. It made no sense. The Empire had studied countless species. When a divided civilization faced external threat, they usually fought among themselves even harder. Competition for resources, struggle for power, collapse into chaos, not humans. When threatened, they became more unified. Kirasol watched as factories that made cars switched to building spacecraft components. She watched as civilian scientists shared research with military programs. She watched as children started learning about orbital mechanics in school. The entire planet mobilized. The human ships being built did not follow any known design principles. They were smaller than Imperial vessels, faster, with redundant systems everywhere. When Kirasol asked why, a human engineer laughed. "If something can break, it will break. So we build backups for our backups. We build systems that can survive damage and keep fighting." The Empire did not build that way. Imperial ships were perfect machines. They did not need redundancy because they did not make mistakes. Humans assumed everything would fail eventually. 3 months before the fleet arrived, Kirasol made a disturbing discovery. Human weapons did not work the way Imperial weapons worked. The Empire had spent 10,000 years perfecting energy weapons. Clean, efficient, precise. Humans were building kinetic weapons. They were going to throw metal at Imperial ships at high speed. They were preparing nuclear missiles. They were developing cyber attacks to infiltrate computer systems. It was barbaric. It was uncivilized. It was probably going to work. Imperial shields were designed to stop energy weapons. Energy signatures were easy to detect and counter. But solid metal moving at high speed, nuclear explosions creating electromagnetic pulses, computer viruses exploiting systems that had never needed security. Kirasol added this to her report. The High Council sent back a single-line response. Primitive weapons cannot threaten Imperial technology. She tried to make them understand. She explained that humans did not think like other species. They did not follow rules. They did not fight fair. They adapted and improvised constantly. The Council told her to focus on preparing integration protocols. Kirasol stood in the observation room of a human space station as the 6th month approached. Through the viewport, she could see Earth below and dozens of human ships in orbit. They looked fragile compared to Imperial vessels. They looked small and weak. But she had learned something about humans during her time here. They looked weak until you fought them. Then you discovered they were not weak at all. They were just very good at using every advantage they could find. A human officer stood beside her watching the same view. His name was Admiral James Martinez, brother to the Secretary General. He commanded the Human Defense Fleet. Your fleet will arrive soon, Kirasol said quietly. You cannot win. The Empire has sent 50 warships. You have 30. Martinez nodded. Yes, 30 ships crewed by people who have never fought in space before, against an empire that has conquered 1,000 worlds. Then why do you not surrender? Martinez smiled. It was not a happy smile, because surrender means accepting that our DNA determines our worth. It means accepting that some people are born to rule and others are born to serve. It means giving up everything that makes us human. He turned to face her. We tried that system on Earth multiple times. It always ended badly. We decided we would rather die free than live as someone else's property. Even if they call it a labor caste. Even if they say it is for our own good. Kirasol felt something she had not felt in a long time. Doubt. Doubt about the Empire. Doubt about the natural order. Doubt about everything she had believed for her entire life. The fleet arrives in 3 days, she said. I know, Martinez replied. We are ready. The compliance fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 50 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. They moved in perfect formation, a display of imperial power and precision. Commander Velthos stood on the bridge of the flagship. He was a high-ranking enforcer, sent to handle what the High Council called a minor discipline problem. He had put down rebellions before. This would be no different. His communications officer looked up from her station. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. Their surrender? Velthos asked. No, sir. It appears to be music. Velthos frowned. Music? He listened as the transmission played across the bridge. It was loud and aggressive, with pounding drums and electric guitars. The humans were singing about war, about fighting, about never surrendering. The communications officer looked confused. Sir, they are broadcasting every war anthem in human history, on every channel, at maximum volume. Velthos turned to his tactical officer. How many ships does Earth have? 30 vessels detected, sir. Small, primitive design. No threat, Velthos nodded. The primitives thought they could fight. Let them learn the hard way. Send the ultimatum. They have 1 hour to surrender. The response came back in minutes. Admiral Martinez appeared on the screen, wearing a clean military uniform. Behind him, Velthos could see the bridge of a human warship. It looked cramped and inefficient. Thank you for the offer, Commander Velthos, Martinez said politely. After careful consideration, Earth must respectfully decline. Velthos felt a flash of anger. These primitives needed to learn respect. Then you have chosen destruction. Martinez smiled. We have chosen freedom. The screen went dark. Velthos turned to his fleet. All ships, advance. Prepare to engage. The Imperial fleet moved forward in perfect formation, exactly as they had done for 10,000 years. The human ships ahead scattered like frightened animals. It was going to be a short battle. The Imperial fleet advanced through space in their standard formation. 5 rows of 10 ships each, perfectly spaced. They had used this formation for thousands of years. It was efficient. It looked impressive. It demonstrated order and control. Commander Velthos watched the human ships scatter ahead of them. His tactical officer had been right. They were panicking. This would be over quickly. Then something unexpected happened. The human ships did not retreat. They split up and moved in different directions. Some accelerated hard, others slowed down. A few made sudden course changes that should have torn them apart. The Imperial targeting system struggled to track them. "What are they doing?" Velthos demanded. "Unknown, sir." "Their movements are erratic. No predictable pattern. Imperial tactics were based on precision. Ships moved in formation. Attacks came from calculated angles. Everything followed mathematical models perfected over millennia. Humans were not following any models at all. The first human attack came from an unexpected direction. A small destroyer called the Defiant swooped in from below the Imperial formation. It did not target the Imperial warships. Instead, it fired kinetic rounds at the lead ship's sensor array. Metal slugs moving at incredible speed punched through shields designed to stop energy beams. The flagship's sensors went dark. Velthos felt his ship shudder. "Damage report. Sensors offline. Weapons still functional. Sir, their weapons are kinetic. Our shields are not optimized for solid projectiles." Velthos stared at the tactical display. The humans were using primitive projectile weapons? That was thousands of years outdated. It was barbaric. It was working. More human ships attacked. They did not engage in direct combat. They hit and ran. They targeted specific systems, communications, engines, weapon arrays. They were not trying to destroy Imperial ships. They were trying to disable them. A human cruiser launched missiles. The Imperial point defense systems activated automatically, tracking the energy signatures. But these were not energy weapons. They were nuclear warheads. The first explosion created an electromagnetic pulse that fried electronics across 3 Imperial ships. They went dark, drifting helpless in space. "How are they doing this?" Velthos shouted. "They are primitives." His tactical officer looked terrified. "Sir, they are not fighting like any species we have encountered. They are not trying to win through superior firepower. They are exploiting weaknesses in our systems." Velthos understood now. The Empire had fought for 10,000 years. But they had always fought the same way. They had always faced enemies who fought back using similar tactics. The Empire had never needed to innovate because their methods always worked, until now. A priority alert flashed on his console. One of his ships was reporting cyber intrusion. Somehow human hackers had infiltrated Imperial computer systems. Systems that had never needed security protocols because no one had ever tried to hack them before. The infected ship's weapons suddenly powered down. Then its engines shut off. It broadcast an automated distress signal. Human cyber attacks were spreading through the fleet's communication network. "Cut all network connections," Velthos ordered. "Each ship fights independently." But that created new problems. The Imperial fleet relied on coordinated tactics. Without communication, their perfect formations became a liability. Ships could not coordinate their movements. They could not share targeting data. They were 50 individual ships instead of one unified force. The humans, meanwhile, seemed to thrive in chaos. Each ship operated independently but somehow still worked together. They covered each other. They adapted their tactics constantly. They never did the same thing twice. Velthos was watching his carefully planned battle collapse into disorder. Then came the moment that would haunt him forever. A human destroyer, the Indomitable, was badly damaged. Its weapons were gone. Its engines were failing. By all logic, it should have retreated. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the Imperial flagship. "Sir, that ship is on a collision course. Destroy it," Velthos commanded. Energy beams lanced out, hitting the human ship. It took damage but kept coming. Its pilot pushed the engines beyond their limits. The ship was accelerating to speeds that would tear it apart. In the last seconds before impact, Velthos understood what he was seeing. The humans were not retreating. They were using their own ship as a weapon. The Indomitable struck the Imperial flagship at relativistic speed. The explosion was massive. The flagship disintegrated instantly. The blast wave caught 2 nearby Imperial vessels and destroyed them too. A 4th ship was crippled by debris. 4 Imperial ships gone in one attack. Because a human crew had chosen to sacrifice themselves. Velthos found himself on the bridge of a secondary command ship, staring at the tactical display in shock. The humans had just proven they would do anything to win. They would use weapons the Empire considered barbaric. They would sacrifice their own ships and crews. They had no sense of proper military conduct, and they were winning. The battle continued for 6 more hours. The humans lost 12 ships, but they took down 15 Imperial vessels and damaged 20 more. The compliance fleet, which had arrived expecting an easy victory, was in shambles. Velthos made the hardest decision of his career. He ordered a retreat. Imperial doctrine had no protocol for this. The Empire did not retreat from primitive species. But Velthos was looking at his tactical display and seeing defeat. If they stayed, they would lose more ships. Maybe all of them. All ships fall back to jump distance. Prepare for FTL. As the Imperial fleet retreated, the human ships did not pursue. They held their positions around Earth. They had won the battle, but they were not stupid enough to chase an enemy that still had superior numbers. Admiral Martinez appeared on the fleet-wide channel. His face was tired and sad. Humans had died today. Ships had been destroyed. But his voice was steady. To the Imperial fleet, "You came here to conquer us. You told us we had no choice. You were wrong. Go back to your empire. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity does not accept masters. And tell them that if they come back, we will be ready." He paused. Or better yet, next time, try calling ahead and asking politely. You might be surprised by our answer. The transmission ended. The Imperial fleet jumped to FTL, leaving the solar system behind. Velthos sat in the command chair, trying to process what had happened. He had lost a third of his fleet to a primitive species. He had retreated in disgrace. How would he explain this to the High Council? The answer came to him slowly. He would tell them the truth. The humans were not like other species. They did not follow the rules. They adapted. They innovated. They refused to accept defeat even when defeat seemed certain. Most importantly, they did not care that the Empire had 10,000 years of history and tradition. They did not care about genetic castes or natural order. They cared about freedom, and they were willing to die for it. Back on Earth, Admiral Martinez stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the damage reports. They had lost good people today, brave people, but they had also sent a message to the galaxy. Humanity could not be conquered. Secretary General Maria Martinez called from the surface. "James, the Empire will not forget this. They will come back." Admiral Martinez nodded. "I know, Maria, but next time they will come knowing what we can do. And maybe, just maybe, they will come willing to talk instead of conquer." He looked out at the stars. "Besides, we have work to do. There are other species out there under the Empire's control. Species that might want to know that the Empire can be beaten. Species that might want their freedom too." Maria smiled. "Are you suggesting we start a revolution?" "I am suggesting we make some friends, and maybe help them realize they do not have to accept the Empire's rules either." News of the battle spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. The Empire tried to suppress it, but they could not stop every transmission. Word began to reach the conquered species. The humans had fought the Empire and won. The impossible had happened, and across hundreds of worlds, in the minds of billions of beings who had accepted their assigned places, a dangerous thought began to grow. What if we said no? 6 months after the Battle of Earth, humanity had not been idle. The victory had given them confidence, but also knowledge. They knew the Empire would not forgive what had happened. They also knew something more important. They were not alone. Human ships equipped with faster-than-light drives began exploring nearby star systems. They went carefully, ready to run if they found Imperial forces. What they found instead changed everything. They found other species, dozens of them, all living under Imperial rule, all assigned to genetic castes. All told, they had no choice. Captain Sarah Chen commanded the exploration ship Discovery. She was on her 5th mission when they encountered the Vryn. The Vryn were classified as Tier 5 labor caste, the lowest ranking. They worked in mines and factories across Imperial space, doing the jobs that no other species wanted. They lived short, hard lives with no hope of anything better. Chen watched through the viewport as Vryn workers loaded cargo onto an Imperial transport. They moved slowly, their bodies thin from malnutrition. Imperial guards stood nearby with shock weapons, ready to enforce discipline. One of the Vryn stumbled under the weight of a cargo container. A guard shocked him. The Vryn fell, got up, and continued working. No one helped him. No one even looked at him. Chen felt anger burn in her chest. "This is what the Empire wanted for us," she said quietly. "This is what they call natural order." Her first officer nodded. What are your orders, Captain? Chen made a decision that would change galactic history. We are going to get those people out of there. It was not an authorized mission. Earth had sent them to explore, not to interfere. But Chen looked at those workers and saw what humanity could have become. She could not walk away. The Discovery approached the station, broadcasting diplomatic codes. The Imperial Station Master accepted their request to dock. After all, humans were not officially at war with the Empire. The battle at Earth had been classified as a minor incident. Chen and her crew walked through the station wearing civilian clothes. They split up and found the Vryn worker quarters. The conditions were worse than the viewport had shown. Hundreds of Vryn crammed into spaces meant for dozens. No medical care. Barely enough food. Chen approached a group of Vryn workers during their rest period. My name is Sarah Chen. I am from Earth. We fought the Empire and won. We want to offer you something. The Vryn looked at her with suspicion and hope mixed together. What do you offer? Freedom. Chance to leave this place. No castes, no masters. Just a choice. They did not believe her at first. Species did not leave the Empire. It was impossible. But Chen showed them recordings of the Battle of Earth. She showed them human cities where different species worked together as equals. 200 Vryn chose to take the chance. Getting them out was harder. The station master realized what was happening and tried to stop them. Chen broadcast a message across all channels. This is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth. We are evacuating Vryn workers who have chosen to leave Imperial service. Any attempt to stop us will be considered an act of war against humanity. We suggest you let us leave peacefully. The station master had read the reports from Earth. He had read about the battle. He let them go. The Vryn arrived on Earth as refugees. They were weak and scared and uncertain. But they were free. News of the rescue spread through Imperial space faster than the Empire could contain it. Other species began to whisper, if humans could defy the Empire, maybe they could too. If the Vryn could leave, maybe others could follow. The Empire declared the action illegal. They demanded the Vryn be returned. Earth responded by offering asylum to any species that wanted it. Thousands came. The High Council met in emergency session. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years through order and hierarchy. Now that order was breaking down. Species were questioning their assigned roles. Workers were refusing their duties. Some were even leaving Imperial space entirely. High Counselor Tharnek stood before the assembled council members. This cannot continue. The humans have made themselves the enemy of natural order. They are spreading chaos throughout our territory. We must respond decisively. Some council members urged caution. The humans had already defeated one fleet. But Tharnek was a traditionalist. He believed in the Empire absolutely. We will assemble an armada. 500 ships. We will crush Earth and any species that supports them. We will restore order, the council voted. The decision was made. Back on Earth, Secretary General Martinez received the news. An Imperial armada was being assembled. This was not a compliance fleet. This was total war. She called an emergency meeting of the Free Species Coalition. That was what they called themselves now. 20 species that had chosen freedom over empire. The meeting took place on a neutral station at the edge of human space. Representatives from 20 different species gathered. Some were refugees. Some were secret delegates from worlds still under Imperial control. All shared one thing in common: they wanted to be free. Martinez addressed the gathering. The Empire is coming. They are bringing 500 warships. Earth has 80 ships now. That is not enough. We need your help. A Vryn representative stood. His name was Kellum, one of the first refugees. The Vryn have no warships. We have no weapons. We were never allowed such things. But we have knowledge. We know Imperial systems. We know their weaknesses, and we have 600 transport ships that can be converted. Other species offered what they could. Ships, knowledge, resources. One by one, they pledged support. The coalition fleet would have nearly 300 ships. Not all of them were warships. Many were converted transports and mining vessels. But every species contributed what they could. More importantly, humans began teaching them human tactics, how to fight unpredictably, how to exploit weaknesses, how to survive against superior force. Admiral James Martinez took command of the coalition defense. He looked at the fleet composition and shook his head. This is going to be close. Captain Chen stood beside him. We beat them before. We beat one fleet. This is 10 times larger. And they will be ready for our tactics this time. Chen smiled. Then we will have to come up with new tactics. The Armada would arrive in 3 months. The Coalition used every day to prepare. They built new weapons. They trained crews. They shared knowledge across species barriers. And slowly, something remarkable happened. Species that had never been allowed to speak to each other began working together. Engineers from 5 different worlds collaborated on shield designs. Vryn mechanics taught humans about Imperial technology. Everyone learned from everyone else. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was inefficient by Imperial standards, but it was working. 1 week before the Armada arrived, Martinez gathered all the Coalition captains for a final briefing. The Empire thinks this will be easy. They think we will panic. They think superior numbers will make us surrender. They are wrong. We have something they do not understand. We have chosen to be here. Every single one of us. We fight not because we are ordered to, but because we choose freedom over submission. He looked at the faces around him. Human. Vryn. A dozen other species. All different. All equal. The Empire has numbers. But we have something better. We have each other. The Armada dropped out of FTL at the edge of the solar system. 500 ships, the largest military force the Empire had assembled in 5 centuries. High Counselor Tharnex himself commanded from the flagship. This would be his victory. This would restore order. Then his sensors detected the Coalition fleet. And he realized that Earth had made allies. The final battle for freedom was about to begin. The Imperial Armada filled the view screens. 500 warships in perfect formation, the symbol of 10,000 years of unchallenged power. High Counselor Tharnex stood on his flagship bridge, confident in inevitable victory. Facing them was the Coalition fleet. 300 ships from 20 species. Many were converted cargo vessels. Some had been civilian transports a month ago, but they flew together under a single banner. The banner of choice. Admiral Martinez watched the Armada approach. His tactical display showed impossible odds. The Empire had better ships, better weapons, better training. Every calculation said the Coalition would lose, but Martinez knew something the Empire did not understand. Numbers meant nothing if you were fighting for the wrong reasons. Tharnex opened a channel to the Coalition fleet. This is your final chance. Surrender now. Return to your proper places. The Empire is merciful to those who submit, Martinez responded. High Counselor, you have traveled across the galaxy with 500 ships to force people back into slavery. I think we have different definitions of mercy. Our answer is no. Tharnex ended the transmission. He had expected this. Primitives always chose the hard way. All ships advance. Destroy the Coalition fleet. The Armada moved forward in their standard formation. Massive, unstoppable, orderly. The Coalition fleet did not meet them head-on. Instead, they scattered like Martinez had taught them. Not in panic, in purpose. The battle began with human ships launching the first attack. They had learned from the previous battle. This time they targeted command and control systems first. Kinetic weapons punched through shields. Cyber attacks probed for weaknesses. But the Empire had learned too. Their shields were reinforced. Their systems had new security protocols. The Armada was ready for human tactics. What they were not ready for were the other species. Vryn ships. Crewed by former slaves who knew Imperial systems better than anyone, launched precision attacks on power distribution nodes. They knew exactly where to hit because they had built those systems. Another species called the Kelth used electromagnetic weapons that the Empire had banned centuries ago. They had never expected to face them again. The Coalition was not fighting as one unified force. They were fighting as dozens of independent groups, each using their own methods, all coordinated by human tactical networks. It was chaos. It was unpredictable. It was effective. 2 hours into the battle, something unexpected happened. A Vryn hacker named Kelm, the same refugee who had pledged his support, managed to break into the Imperial communication network, not to destroy it, to broadcast on it. Every Imperial ship suddenly received the same transmission. It showed footage of the Battle of Earth. It showed Coalition species working together as equals. It showed Vryn refugees building new lives on human worlds, and it showed Imperial soldiers what their leaders did not want them to see. There was another way. Most Imperial crews ignored it. They had been raised to believe in the Empire absolutely. But some did not. Some looked at those images and wondered why they were fighting. Why were they trying to force people back into castes? Why were they destroying ships crewed by species that just wanted freedom? 3 Imperial ships withdrew from the battle. Then 5 more. Not because they were damaged, because their crews refused to continue. Tharnex watched in horror as his perfect armada began to fracture. This is treason. All ships will continue the attack. But some ships did not respond. The doubt had spread. Martinez saw the opportunity. He opened a channel to the entire battle space, to all Imperial forces. We do not want to destroy you. We want you to understand. The Empire has told you that genetic castes are natural, that some species are meant to rule and others to serve. But it is a lie. We offer you a choice. Leave now and no one will stop you. Continue fighting and we will defend ourselves. The decision is yours. More Imperial ships began to withdraw, some slowly, some quickly. The perfect formation was breaking apart. Tharnex refused to accept defeat. He had come here to restore order. He would not leave until that was done. All remaining ships full assault. Target Earth directly. If we destroy their homeworld, the rest will surrender. About 200 Imperial ships remained loyal. They formed up and pushed toward Earth, ignoring the Coalition fleet. They would go straight to the source. Martinez watched them come. This was the moment he had prepared for. The final card humanity had to play: activate the AI network. The Empire had banned artificial intelligence thousands of years ago. They considered it too unpredictable, too dangerous, too likely to question orders. Humans had embraced it. Every human ship had an AI partner. Every weapon system was coordinated by artificial intelligence. The Coalition fleet suddenly moved with precision the Empire had never seen from them. Human intuition combined with computer processing. Organic creativity merged with digital calculation. The Coalition fleet became something the Empire had no experience fighting. The loyal Imperial ships found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Their weapons targeted where Coalition ships would be, but AI predicted the predictions. Their formations were countered before they could form. Their tactics were analyzed and defeated in real time. The battle raged for 12 more hours. Slowly, inevitably, the Imperial assault weakened. Ships were disabled. Systems failed. And more crews started to question why they were fighting. Tharnex stood on his bridge watching his armada fall apart. He had brought 500 ships. Nearly half had withdrawn. A third were damaged or destroyed. The rest were barely holding together. A Vryn boarding team breached his flagship. They moved through the corridors, stunning Imperial crew with non-lethal weapons. They reached the bridge. Kelm himself walked onto the bridge. The former slave faced the High Counselor. "It is over, Counselor. Your crew has surrendered. So should you." Tharnex looked at the Vryn. A Tier 5 labor caste, the lowest of the low. Yet here he stood commanding a boarding team that had captured an Imperial flagship. "How?" Tharnex asked. "How did you defeat us?" Kelm smiled sadly. "You were defeated the moment you decided our DNA mattered more than our choice. The moment you built a system on forcing people into roles they did not choose. The Empire was already falling. We just gave it a push. The battle ended. The Imperial Armada was defeated. Not completely destroyed, but broken. More importantly, the idea of Imperial invincibility was shattered. In the aftermath, Martinez and the surviving Coalition leaders sent a message to the Empire. They did not demand surrender. They did not seek revenge. They offered negotiation. The High Council had no choice. They agreed to meet. 6 months later, on a neutral station, representatives from the Empire and the Free Species Coalition sat down together. It took weeks of negotiation. The Empire did not want to give up their system. But they could not deny reality. They had lost. Not because they were weaker, but because they had tried to control people who refused to be controlled. The treaty was simple. Species could choose whether to join the Empire or remain independent. The genetic caste system would be abolished. It would take years to implement fully. Generations, probably. But it was a start. The Empire would not fall completely. They would change, slowly, reluctantly. But they would change. Secretary General Martinez attended the signing ceremony. The Empire offered her a seat on their council. She declined politely. "We do not want to rule your empire. We just want to be free. And we want others to have that same freedom." Tharnex, now a diplomatic representative instead of a military commander, sat across from her. He had spent months thinking about what had happened. I still do not understand your species. You had no right to win, no natural advantage. You were Tier 4 labor caste by every genetic measurement. Martinez smiled and poured 2 drinks. She offered one to Tharnex. That is the thing about rights, counselor. We do not wait for someone to give them to us. We take them. We earn them. We fight for them. You tried to tell us what we were worth based on our DNA. We decided to show you what we were worth based on our choices. Tharnex accepted the drink. Perhaps the Empire has been wrong. About many things, perhaps, but you are learning. That is what matters. Through the viewport, they could see ships from dozens of species docking at the station. Humans, Vryn, former Imperial worlds, all coming together to trade, to talk, to cooperate. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was inefficient. It was freedom. On Earth, Captain Sarah Chen stood in front of a group of Vryn children. They were the first generation born free. They attended school with human children, learning together, playing together. One of the children asked her a question. Captain Chen, why did you fight the Empire? You could have just joined them and been safe. Chen knelt down to look the child in the eyes. Because being safe means nothing if you are not free, and because some things are worth fighting for, like the right to choose who you want to be, the right to decide your own future, the right to be equal to everyone else no matter what anyone says about your genes or your species or your past. The child thought about this. Will we have to fight too? Chen smiled. I hope not. But if you do, you will know why you are fighting. Not because someone ordered you to, but because you chose to protect something that matters. Years later, historians would write about the war between the Empire and the Free Species Coalition. They would analyze tactics and technology. They would study the battles and the treaties, but they would miss the most important point. The Galactic Empire was not defeated by superior weapons or better ships. It was defeated by an idea. The idea that every being had the right to choose their own path, that no one should be assigned a place in life based on DNA or species or tradition. The Empire had ruled for 10,000 years. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had built a perfect system based on order and hierarchy, and then humans walked in like they owned the place. Not because they were stronger, not because they were smarter, but because they refused to accept that anyone else had the right to tell them who they were supposed to be. They fought for freedom. And they won. The galaxy would never be the same.